Hello and welcome to Candid Conversations, zoomed in and comments, our video channel, our YouTube site. My name is Cliff. Thank you very much for dropping in and checking us out. I want to say off the top, I'm very pleased to see a lot of activity beginning to creep up here on the channel, particularly with the Rent to Check-In video. Awesome that people are checking that out. I'm going to try and do something else with somebody who has a channel that features a duck, Wrinkle the Duck. I'm going to see if I can get an interview with that particular individual. Plus, I'm also looking at getting a hold of Daniel Whiteson of the podcast fame, and of course he's a physics professor out in UCLA, and he is hopefully going to get on with me in the next couple of weeks to talk about AI and physics. And also the other thing I'm looking to do is speak with a lady by the name of Maris Gephardt about meditation in the workplace. Should be an interesting interview to do as well. So lots going on the channel. Very happy to see what's going on, and like I said, there's going to be lots of interviews coming up in the next little while, so stick around. I think you'll find some very interesting content coming up here on the channel. Today I want to talk about what got me into doing broadcasting, and also what's brought me back to broadcasting in a sense, because that's what YouTube really is about. YouTube, in my opinion, is a form of broadcasting. It's a channel that allows, or a platform, I should say, that allows for one to broadcast interesting things that they find to a mass audience. That's what YouTube is. It's a broadcast platform. And I'm a former broadcaster. I did actually work in media for 2 to 4 years, actually close to 6, mostly as a volunteer. I'll explain that in a little bit, but I did do 2 years of paid work. I'll explain what I did in that paid work realm, and I'll explain what got me into broadcasting, what's brought me back into doing what I'm doing now. So I have, besides this channel, a blog, which is, of course, Candid Conversations, and I also do a podcast called Tales from the Cube, which is another broadcast medium, podcasting, of course, which basically allows me to talk about another interest of mine, which is call centers, because I am a professional call center representative, and I do have 20 years under the belt, and I've been basically disseminating some of my thinking about how call centers work, what I know, what I don't know, what I think is funny, what I think is interesting, and I've been putting that out there, and I'm hoping to really build that channel and get some interesting audience. Right now we have 300 subscribers on that channel, which is awesome. 300 people actually looking at that particular podcast, and it's really, really neat. So broadcasting is in my blood. It is the thing that I love doing the most, and one part of broadcasting I really truly enjoy is interviewing people. That's why I have the blog, that's why I have this channel. It is meant to do interviews and also commentary. I also like doing that. I did do some just jockeying on the side as well. I was a DJ for a little bit, mainly with our community radio station, which is now known as the Hawk. Back in the day, it was just known as CHMR, which was a cable radio station at Mohawk College. Mohawk College back in the day, and still does today, train broadcasters, and they have a media course. They have a couple of courses, actually. Broadcast journalism, they have advertising, television, and radio. So there are 4 courses that you can take, and I took the radio course. It was a 2-year course. In 1990 is when I started my training, and in 1992 is when I graduated. So I got out, started doing some volunteer work at the radio station, and also eventually got into the other community radio station here in Hamilton, which is still going strong. That is CFMU. That is Canada's one of Canada's premier student radio stations. Toronto is basically the biggest one, which is CIUT, I believe, University of Toronto, yeah. CIOUT is the biggest one. But here in Hamilton, we have CFMU, which stands for McMaster University, at 93.3 FM. And I was on their station for 2 years. And I did both volunteer as well as paid work for them. I was a producer. I produced a program called Aware. And what I did in Aware was talk about people with disabilities and disability issues. It was an interesting show. It got canceled after 2 years based on the fact that I had to leave Hamilton for personal reasons. It was just a thing I had to do. Things that happened here in Hamilton that caused me to have to move on to other things. So that's when I got into call centers. And also in 1996, I realized my career wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going to be a superstar in radio. I wasn't going to end up on Q107 or CHFI or any of the big radio stations or any of the other ones here in Southern Ontario. It just wasn't going to happen. So I entered the call center industry. I became a telemarketer for 2 years, then merged into customer service, and now I do technical support, and I'm a Tier 2 advisor. So that's the short story of this. But what got me into this? What got me into broadcasting? I'll tell you about that. But the other thing I did was I did work from 1994 to 95 for the CBC. Now, the CBC, of course, for anybody who is in Canada, you would know who they are. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is our NPR, if you will. It is publicly funded radio, so your tax dollars pay for it. And basically, we have this right across Canada. I worked in Toronto. I was in the newsroom in what's known as news recording at the time. It's probably all changed now. And my job was basically to do what's known as group for technical work. So I was the guy behind the board. So I would sit with a producer to my left, and I would have a person in front of me in the studio doing the actual newscast. All three of us would have a script, so I would look at the script, follow, and I'd usually have one tape because it was a 4-minute newscast. I also did do one time each of the other shows, which was the longer 30-minute program known as The World at 6. I also did a 30-minute program one time, which was the 8 o'clock report, which was, I think, called World Report, I forget. And then there was Canada at 5 at the time, and Canada at 5 was a 15 to 20-minute newscast, and each of these had a number of tapes that you had to do, run. So basically we had reel-to-reel tapes that were pre-recorded, and we would run them. So the 8 o'clock, we might have one or two. The hourly's one, if you were lucky, was usually done. Canada at 5, 2 at the most, and the World at 6, up to 3 or 4 tapes were run in the show. So I did all of those shows, but my main operation was in the hourlies. I actually had them for the summer. I was the guy who ran in 1994 the hourlies. I was the technician. I had charge of that show in the technical aspect. So I made sure that it was ready to go. I would send my tone down to control, and I would run that show for the 4 minutes. So essentially, for that day or the days that I worked, I only technically did my job for 4 minutes an hour. So think about that, 8 hours, 8 times 4, 32 minutes. And I got paid like 15 or 16 bucks an hour to do this, which was really cool at the time. Then I moved into CFMU, I did a year of work with them. Like I said, I had to leave Hamilton for personal reasons. And also the fact was there was another producer who was working with me who always gave me a bit of a hard time about the fact that I got paid. So I said, okay, if you really feel you can do this show, I'll hand you over the show. I'm leaving anyway. So here you go. 2 weeks he was off the air. He just didn't have the skill set. Wasn't trained as a broadcaster like I was. I did 2 years of college. I knew how to do this. And so at the end of the day, this gentleman went off the air, and so did the show. So what got me into it was a little show that ran for a couple of years in the early 80s It was 4 seasons long. It was WKRP in Cincinnati. You can still find it even on some of those paid VP channels that you can get, or through IP networks like the ones I have, that I pay for 6 months, and I get channels, and included in there's pay-per-view and also premium channels and premium shows. Included in there is WKRP. So I do and have watched the show. It is a funny show. Funny fact, or known fact, with my sister's husband, he knows every episode. He knows all of them. He understands every aspect of each of those episodes and knows all the trivia behind it. So one time I'll have to get him on the channel here and talk about WKRP, and of course his other interest is football. But at the end of the day here, why did I get involved with it? I loved the show. I loved the funny of the show. I loved the characters, Andy, Travis, Les Nessman, Dr. Johnny Fever, Venus Flytrap, Mr. Carlson. Essentially, this is a show about a radio station that is just basically run by bumbling people, and one guy's attempt, Andy Travis, to try and fix it. He does actually turn it around. He gets the radio station up to a level that is much better. By the time the 4th season comes around, they're making money, they're doing things, but they're still goofy. But in the first couple of seasons, 1 and 2, they are really a train wreck. And we find out, I read in Wikipedia, we find out, we go to the in-depth here, and we figure out that really Mrs. Carlson, Mr. Carlson's mother, really wanted the station to fail so she could sell it and get money for it, and tax credits as well for a failed radio station, and she could get it as a write-off. She wanted it to fail, which is really interesting, but in the end, it succeeded. It goes to show that even in the worst case scenario, you can make something a success. Now, what's interesting in the way I can relate to this show is the fact that my career didn't go anywhere. It was, literally 2 years of paid work. One with the CBC, one with CFMU. It was over. Done. And one of the reasons, besides the having to leave for personal reasons, out of Hamilton, was the fact that I had a very interesting call one time. I was actually starting my career in broadcast, and I was actually starting my career in call centers. And one of the things that I had in the way of a conversation was with somebody who was a former broadcaster themselves. And he said, if you're not doing anything within 5 years, shut it down. You're done. It's over. Finished. You're done. And I was coming up to that point. I was beginning to realize this isn't going anywhere. I'm never going to make money at this. I'm never going to be that superstar. In fact, I had one station manager say to me, you're too old and you're blind. Why would I hire you? That was a shocking thing to hear from a station manager. You're blind and you're too old. Another time I went to a station to apply. I probably would have gotten the job, actually. And a student at the college that I trained at, actually, I was graduated at the time, a student who was coming out of college, he was just about to graduate and go to work, and he was applying for the same job. So the guy's blind, can't even see 2, 3, or 4 feet in front of him. Why would you hire him? It is a cutthroat industry. It is a killer industry if you don't have your ducks in a row, if you're really not that great, if your voice isn't well liked by most people, you're not going to get very far in the industry. And near the end, I'll explain what I feel you should and shouldn't do as far as getting into broadcasting. But what I got into it was WKRP. It was the characters, it was the people who were behind this show that really made it work and made it funny, but also showed a little bit of what radio was really like. You know, you had the morning guy, you had the nighttime guy. Now, they didn't wear headphones, but in real life, when you're on the air in a radio station, you do wear the headphones, so you can hear yourself and hear what's going out. because once you turn on the microphone, the studio speakers are shut off. So they are really wearing headphones all the time, because the bottom line is we have to hear what's going out. We have to make sure the levels are correct so that we're not being overpowered by the music. We're talking over the music just at the right time. Plus, also, we want to do something called hitting the post. That's where you're talking and you say, another 20 minutes of nonstop rock and roll. Now on Q107. Boom, done. You're out, and the song lyric begins. So it's that kind of thing that you want to keep going on, and you're looking at the player and the timer and all that stuff. Plus, also, you have to manage whatever else is going on. So you might have to listen a little bit to make sure that that music is still playing. Then once you turn your mic off, you have to head monitors up, and you have to cue monitor on, and you're listening and you're putting up other stuff and getting it ready to go and queuing it up, and you're looking at your seconds and all that. You're writing your log. It's a very busy kind of job. And that was portrayed pretty well in WKRP. Not super accurate, but it was well enough to establish credibility that you could see that it's a busy place. There's something always going on. And yeah, sometimes people are coming in and out of the studio to put carts in, or tell you what you need to do, or switch out an ad, or tell you to switch this for that, or do something like that. So it gave you a good idea. It also showed you how sales worked. It shows you how management worked, although Carlson himself was a bumbler. He was really not interested in managing the station, but when he did manage, he managed quite well. So it was a funny show. It was a show I liked. It was a show that got me interested, and I'm sure if you're out there watching this show, whether it's on IPTV, whether it's in syndication, wherever it might be, you might find this show interesting. You might say, hey, I'd like to get into broadcasting. Here's the short answer. No, don't do it. The reason why I discourage people from going into broadcasting, young people especially, is it's, particularly in Canada, it is not a very a lucrative career. Most radio stations have a lot of pre-recorded programming now, particularly at night and overnight. So you're not going to get an overnight or an evening position. You might in some of the bigger markets, but in a lot of the smaller markets, no. And if you want a daytime or midday position, or even drive home position, those are filled. Those guys are not leaving. They're not. There's a really wonderful lady by the name of Lori Love. I actually went to school with her in college. I know her real name, but her stage name is Lori Love, and that's what I'm going to use. So Lori Love was actually very successful in her career. She got on the station here in Hamilton, the rock station here, and then eventually, that station is no longer a rock station, by the way. It was Y95. It became a different format, still is a different format. At the time, though, it was a rock format, Y95. Then eventually she moved into other places, and eventually got into a station in St. Catharines, 105.7, I believe. How long was she there? 30 years. Not going to get a job. I'm sorry. If you're coming out of college, you're not going to get a job in a commercial radio station here in Canada right off the bat. You might get lucky. I discourage the idea of you going into it if you think you're going to be a radio superstar. If you're going to go for it and go into college and take this course and think you're going to get a job in a commercial radio station, you won't, because it's all tied up. These jobs are taken and nobody's leaving. Okay, it's just not going to happen, kids. So you're going to do this course, you're going to come out, and you're going to put your stuff out there, and most likely you're not going to get anywhere. You might get somewhere in the United States, because there's thousands more radio stations in the U.S. than in Canada. But here in Canada, no. You might get lucky, but no. So I would say, if you're looking to go into traditional broadcasting, as in a radio station, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. Don't. But if you want to do something like this is where the money might be. It's in YouTube, it's in creating content, even using a bit of AI out there. Although I'm kind of a person who has mixed emotion on it, mixed feelings about it because of its risk as far as that goes. But other than that, there's lots of online resources that you can get into, and online radio stations that do exist that might hire you. Lots of online content that you could possibly create for people and showcase in YouTube, TikTok, or wherever. So you might find something there for companies or even radio stations or media outlets that I would take a course like this for. Learn how radio works so that you can understand how a basic radio station works, and then apply those skills in that. But if you're looking for traditional, I want to be a Q107 or FM 98 or whatever, behind the booth, glass, on the air, microphone, running the board kind of guy in a traditional radio station, you're going to waste your money and your time doing the college course. It's a waste of energy and time. Now, I know a lot of people are going to feed back this particular video. And they're going to say, that's not fair, Cliff. You're dissing, and you're trying to tell people not to go to school and take this course. Yes, I am telling people not to do this. And the reason for that is because it's money, particularly if you're a parent paying for a student, it's money out of your pocket for these lovely kids that are trying to get jobs that are not going to get jobs. They're not. So why'd you do that to your son or your daughter? Put them through a course they're not going to get anywhere at the end with, as far as a job goes. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you have sour grapes because you never got into and became a radio personality. In the early days, yes. I was angry. I was not happy. I've come to terms with that. So I realized, okay, I have to find something else, so I went into call centers. But I'm back into this, and I'm hoping eventually I will make money doing what I'm doing here on YouTube, also with my podcast and even with my blog, and I'm making little bits here and there. But the point I'm getting at is that this is something I'm driving. I'm the producer. I'm the guy running the board. I don't have to listen to a station manager. I don't have to listen to a sales manager. I'm not at the behest of a program director. All I have to do is follow the rules of YouTube and make sure I'm not doing anything that violates their policies and rules, and I'm okay. And I decide what goes on my broadcast channel. That's the beauty of doing this. So that's why I'm back into this, because I'm doing something I love and I'm passionate about, that I trained to do when I was in my 30s, from 1990 to 92. So I would say, and this is the final word on this, if you're going to go into college to do radio broadcasting or any kind of thing like that in advertising or broadcast journalism, television, wherever you want to put your foot into, understand you want to look outside the traditional media outlets to find your career path after you do these courses. If you're going in thinking you're going to work in a TV station, or you're going to work for an ad agency, or you're going to work for a radio station, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to, it's not going to happen. At least not in Canada. It's not going to happen. Now, I've seen jobs out there, radio show host, whatever. The minute those things go up, thousands, not hundreds, thousands of people put their app in with their little recording. It's no longer a tape. It's no longer a cassette tape. It's no longer a reel-to-reel tape. Now it's, of course, a video like this one, or audio clip, an MP3 file. But a lot of times, you know what the programmer's doing when they listen? Delete, 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 delete. Okay? That's the bottom line here. If you do get fortunate, I would love to hear from anybody who's just gotten out of college about 1 or 2 months ago. If you've gotten a job here in Canada in a traditional radio station or TV station or ad agency, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Please drop me a comment. Kind of point me out, and call me out and say I'm wrong. But I'm not. And I know that there are people, like I said, whom I know in the industry, and they still know me, they're going to come back on me for this. They're going to say, that's really not nice. And then I even say that's inappropriate content on YouTube. Well, no, it's not inappropriate content on YouTube to tell somebody the truth. And to be honest, and so long as you're factual about this and realize that you're telling the God honest truth about something, you're not in the wrong. And the fact is, I'm one of those people. Out of a class of 30 that started, how many people do you think we graduated in my colors? 12. And about 4 or 5 of them made inroads, got in, became broadcasters. 4 or 5, that's it. Nothing like what it was in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, and early 70s. Nothing at all like that, or even into the 80s. Once the 90s came and technology changed things, that was it. So if you're out there watching WKRP in Cincinnati and you think it's a funny show, and I do think it's a funny show, and you're thinking, I'd like to do that, take it from a guy who's done that. It was fun, and if you get in and you are successful, congratulations to you. Awesome. I hope you have many years of success in your career in broadcasting. But if you're getting in there and you're realizing, oh my God, what did I do? Don't beat yourself up too much. You're in the same boat as thousands of other people who will go through these courses and realize at the end, oh my God, I took a wrong turn here. It's okay. You can still take those skill sets and do what I'm doing right now and look at other non-traditional media sources. Or you can do what I did. I took my skill sets and I went into call centers, and I'm successful at what I do. I make top dollar in my business as a frontline agent. I get paid very, very well to do what I do. Am I at a living wage? Pretty darn close. I'll be honest with you, pretty darn close. So I hope that you take away something from this, and that's the message is this. And enjoy what you see. If you're fascinated and you want to do this, research it, understand what it takes to do what I do here on YouTube and what blog is all about and what a podcast is all about. Line it up, try it out, and see if it will be something that will work for you. And if it isn't, that's okay. You try, and that's the best you can do. Always remember that nothing tried is a lesson not learned. Right? If you don't try it, you'll never learn. So I tried it. I learned some great things from it. I wasn't a super successful broadcaster, but I love what I do now, and I think it's important to share that with you. That's why I do what I do here on this channel, in my blog and in my podcast, so that you can find the interesting things that I do and see where I come from and what my passion is. And it's interviewing interesting people like you. Do you want to share your story with me? Write to candidconversations@hotmail.com and send me your story. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and I'd be happy to interview you here on Zoomed In or on my blog. And if you're a call center specialist, or if you're working in the call center industry and you have something you would like to discuss and be a guest on Tales from the Cube, that's 4eyesfreelancing@gmail.com. The number 4, freelancing, is one word, @gmail.com, and I'll write back to you and we can schedule an interview as well. And of course, advertising is also open. Endorsements I'm happy to do, as well as other things with regard to the podcast and the blog. So hit me up. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump in here. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications if you want all, or just some notifications. Do that, select that, and follow us. I appreciate everybody's input and comments, particularly in the last video about Travis King. Update just for you as well. There is chatter going on between them and the North Koreans. The command, of course, from the U.S. side is actually reaching out and talking to North Korea, and hopefully they'll get this young man back home in one piece. But it is definitely a sad state. So overall, been a great chat with you today. Thank you very much for stopping by our channel. My name again is Clip. You can check us out anytime. Thank you again. We'll see you in the next video.